Hi, it's Mike with AskTractorMike.com. I'm on the lot of the dealership where I used to work for 11 years to talk today about dealerships. I get a lot of questions on this channel about what brand of tractor do I buy and what model, and I won't touch that. There's a lot of good tractors out there right now from a lot of different manufacturers that I would be proud to own. So if there's lots of good tractors out there, what separates one brand from another? Well, as I say in my book, An Insider's Guide to Purchasing a Tractor, I think the most important consideration when you're buying a tractor is the dealership you buy it from. So what makes a good dealership? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to give you some hints so you can find that dealership that's going to take care of you. And if you're a new tractor owner, you want somebody that's going to hold your hand a little bit and make that first tractor purchase a pleasant one. So let's get started. I think one of the main things you can look at that'll tell you if you're talking to a dealer or not that you want to do business with is their inventory. And we're at a time when inventory levels are kind of low because 2020 was a real good year in terms of tractor sales. But drive across their lot. If you come into a dealership and they have a row of combines on the front row and a row of articulated tractors on the second row and a row of planters on the third row, and on the fourth row there's 3 compact tractors and you're looking for a compact tractor, that's probably not your dealership. But if you come in and they've got a nice supply of tractors, big ones, little ones, different sizes for you to test drive, well, that might be your dealership. Now you'll find some dealerships are kind of ag oriented. They have harvesting equipment like round balers or combines on their lot. If that's mostly what they've got, you might want to avoid them, but they've got a mixture. That's okay. Some dealerships, you can tell their main thing is like lawn and garden or outdoor power equipment, ATVs and UTVs. And if they're predominantly an ATV and UTV dealer and they're just getting into tractors, you want to think about what that's going to do to the service department, and we're going to talk about that later. ATVs and UTVs don't have hydraulic systems and they generally don't have diesel engines. Same with lawn and garden. So if you're primarily looking at a lawn and garden dealership that's got a few tractors or an outdoor power equipment dealership that's got a few tractors, they may not have that great a service department, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Maybe the dealership you're looking at has a lot of this kind of stuff, industrial equipment. Skid loaders, mini excavators, wheel loaders, bulldozers, whatever. Well, that's all well and good. They're going to know how to work on diesel engines and hydraulic systems, and a smaller tractor is going to feel like a toy to them. But the big question with them, which brings me to my number 2 point in selecting a dealership, is parts and hours. What are their hours? A lot of industrial dealerships are not open on Saturday, so if you need parts, you can't get them on a weekend. Find out what the hours are of the place that you're at, and working right in with that, what's their parts department look like? So that's number 2. Number 3 is the service department. Service is tough. It's hard to find good qualified people. The go-between person will be the service manager at the dealership, and if you're buying a tractor, try to get back and meet the service manager. He's the one you're going to be communicating with if there's an issue with service or warranty. And so you want to see what kind of guy he is or lady she is. And that's a tough job to fill. Those guys have the hardest job in the dealership, in my opinion. And they got to be kind of technically oriented, but they've got to be a good communicator too. And that skill set doesn't really go together. And find out what their shop labor rate is. That'll tell you a lot. If they're an industrial dealership, they tend to have a lot higher shop labor rates. So if you're paying them to work on your equipment, you're going to pay more with a lot of the industrial dealers than you will with an ag dealer. The 4th thing to look at when you're looking at a tractor dealership is reviews. And those could be reviews online or your neighbors or people you run across. Before COVID, I would recommend going to that big round table at the local Greasy Spoon restaurant and asking the farmer table what they think of the local dealerships. But find out what other people think. If you're looking at a certain model of tractor and you're not sure whether you want it or not, have that dealer give you the names of people that own it and go find out what they think of it. It's a great way to get a review of something you're thinking about buying so you don't get into a trap of something that's not good. Number 5, look at their facility. I always tried to maintain a nice, clean facility, and we actually moved the dealership that I worked at to a nice, brand new facility. But before that, we had kind of a rundown facility in a rough part of town, and we had the same people and the same level of service at both places. I don't put too much into facilities other than I want a clean, organized facility, and I want someplace I'm comfortable to go in. A lot of dealerships are in like older buildings, and they've been there forever, and I sure don't have a problem with that. But a successful dealership that moves to a high traffic area like this one, that's awesome. That's good. So look at their facility, and are you comfortable going in there? Number 6, now this sounds like a little deal, but it's kind of a big deal to me. If you're financing the tractor, you're going to pay a doc fee. Find out what their doc fee is. And what a doc fee is, when you filled out a contract to finance a tractor or car or anything else, you're going to get charged a documentation fee. And part of that is legitimate. Part of that is actually money that the dealer pays. Whenever you buy something, a lien has to be filed against it at the county. And that's usually in Missouri, when I quit the dealership, it was $36. But we charged a doc fee that was like $200. And what's the difference between the $200 and the $36? It's profit for somebody. If they've got a $500 doc fee that they're going to try to put in that contract and hide it from you and put it in the payment stream, well, that kind of raises a red flag. But generally about $200 to $250 is what dealerships do, and it's profit. It's money for the hassle of writing up the contract, and I guess I'm okay with it. It seems like everybody does it. But find out what that doc fee is. Number 7 thing to look at when you're trying to evaluate dealerships, and this is pretty big, is it locally owned, family owned, or is it owned by a big conglomerate? Now, there's advantages of both. If it's locally owned by a family, well, if there's a problem, you don't have to go through 10 levels of management to get an answer. But if it's part of a conglomerate, getting an answer may be difficult. And there's a lot of conglomerates out there. Now, on the other side of it, if it's a big conglomerate with lots of locations, they may get volume discounts that smaller dealers don't get. So you need to ask yourself, is that important for the owners to be local? And maybe it's part of a conglomerate and the owners are family and they're not local, but they're accessible. Well, that means something. So find out the background of the dealership and who owns it. That's important. The number 8 thing I'd look at when I'm looking at a dealership is, what's their hauling rate? You know, if you buy a new car and something's going wrong with it, a lot of times you'll know that before it breaks down, so you can drive it to the dealership and get it fixed. With a tractor or with equipment, you've got to have somebody come and pick it up. They'll charge you for that, even if it's under warranty. So you want to find out what their hauling rate is and what's their mobile repair rate. Do they even do mobile repair? And if the tractor goes dead in the field, what will they charge you to come fix it in the field? And some dealerships don't do that, so you want to know that. Number 9, and this is something you probably never thought about, but how does a dealer prep tractors for delivery? Now, this is something we did at this dealership. It's harder on a tractor to get babied around. Whenever it's new, it needs to be run to seat the rings and to find out if there's any leaks or anything like that. One of the worst things you can do to a new tractor is to baby it around and the rings never seat. So what we would do at this dealership, we would hook the small, even the little tractors, the compacts, up to the dyno and crank that thing down and bring them to their knees for about 30 minutes. And if you were going to have a problem with a leak or a problem with anything, you're going to find it on the dyno, and the rings were going to be seated and the thing was going to be ready to go to work when it hit the farm. So find out what the dealer does. Do you get it with a full tank of fuel? Do they clean it or wax it before they deliver it? What's it going to look like? Are they good at scheduling deliveries? Find all that out. What prep goes into that tractor before it gets to you? And finally, the number 10 thing to look at, and this is probably the most important one, and this will be the topic of my next video, is what's the attitude of the dealership? Are they caring? Do they ask a lot of questions about your needs? And I'm going to talk about that in detail in the next video, but I can walk in a place a lot of times and just spend a few minutes there and know if I'm going to get along with them or not. And you definitely want a dealership with a good attitude that you trust and get along with to do business with. I appreciate you watching my videos. If you'd like to subscribe to my YouTube channel, I'd be honored. Click the mic face icon and check the bell so you're notified when I post future videos. Here's a link to my website and the Tractor Fun Store with cool, unique items for the tractor owner. And here's another video you might want to watch. Thanks for watching.